listening to Joygasm, a video game and movie podcast. I'm Russ, Xbox Live Toaster 360. He is Steve, Xbox Live Stevevich. And E3 is so close, we can almost taste it. In episode 227 today, June 10th, 2021. I want to first start off by apologizing that we were MIA last week. It's my fault. I caught a bit of a head cold from my daughter. We went... yeah, it was one of those.
Give me a glass of water.
Yeah, absolutely. My daughter had a dance recital, lots of kids, lots of parents. What could possibly happen, right? Anyway, I am feeling a whole lot better. I'm on the tail end of it where it's almost like the body is getting rid of.
Gross.
Serving an eviction notice to the phlegm and mucus that is left over. If you know
You're
what I mean,
expelling the remnants.
Exactly. Very, very nicely said. We have a fun show in store for you today. Before we get started, though, make sure you slap that subscribe button, maybe even cattle prod that notification bell to make sure you do not miss out on any future episodes, which drop once a week. Steve, what is new with you?
Well, let's see, Russ. It's been a minute. It's been about 20 minutes.
Actually, it's been about 2 weeks worth of minutes, Steve. I'm not exactly sure what that calculates to. I did not pass basic math.
Well, it depends on who is keeping the time, Russ. No pun intended. Or was it? So I must tell you something.
It was definitely the TVA, which we'll get to in a moment. Continue, please, Steve.
I got a little story for you.
I like stories.
So...
especially when they come from you.
So I was speaking with the wife.
Speaking with the wife.
Yeah.
And how were you going about it? Were you speaking in old, middle-aged... actually, it's not middle-aged. What is it? Yeah, that is correct. Middle ages.
You were speaking as a 40-year-old?
I was looking at you and I just all I could think about was middle age.
You were speaking in tongues? Oh.
Not sure what.
Now.
Perhaps hieroglyphics.
Right.
Pantomiming.
How we got on a certain subject, I don't know. I think we were talking about Kim Basinger. Russ. I think we were talking about old Kim.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, well, check this out. And I showed her a clip from the old Batman movie with Michael Keaton.
Vicky Vale.
Vicky Vale.
That's right.
That's the reporter with Knox. Or photographer, I should say. Not reporter.
Dating some guy named Wayne. He's about to change up.
Yeah. So I show her. She goes, wow, she's young. Oh, because you know why?
What?
I'm about to tell you. She showed me a movie called Cellular with Kim Basinger, a little bit older.
Okay.
There was a young Chris Evans in it and Jason Statham.
How have I not heard of this?
Just get a little bit old, Russ. I mean, it was like pre-smartphone era. It was like when minutes were still a thing.
Was this
Kind of a while
before
ago.
or after 8 Mile that she was in with Eminem?
I believe it was before.
So it had to have been late 90s?
8 Mile was after the 90s, wasn't it?
Well, 8 Mile was like in the early 2000s. I don't know specifically the year it came out, but I believe it was early 2000s.
Yeah, this was like 03, I think.
Gosh, yeah, it's right there. Anyway, continue.
So anyhow, we were talking about Kim Basinger and how she's just drop dead gorgeous. And
of course, beautiful.
and so I show her a clip from Batman, and I'm like, look how young she looks here. And she goes, have you ever showed me that movie? And I went, what? What?
Ooh.
What?
Oh my.
You mean every time I went, have you seen all these movies? Have you seen them all? Pointing through my collection. Well, these down here, second shelf. Huh? I know there's about 20 of them. But have you seen them all? And she's like, yeah, I've seen everything. Well, she hasn't seen one.
Oh, that is quite the one.
So she goes, oh, great. Well, I mean, I guess, well, I know what we're doing this weekend. I went, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And so I sat her down. We were having dinner. We actually had to split the movie up in 3 different nights because she goes to bed pretty early. Yeah, so
The movie's not that long. It's only like 2 hours.
Yeah, it's not that long, but she goes to bed early. So I showed her Batman Michael Keaton style.
Oh, beautiful.
And we watched it on HBO Max. I did not put the DVD in.
So they had like the HD version?
Yes.
Okay.
Half of that movie is just Danny Elfman.
Oh, yeah.
Because there are certain exceptions to movies that have a soundtrack as compelling and emotionally like absolving, like drawing you in to the movie as Michael Keaton's Batman, or
Tim Burton's Batman.
Tim Burton's Batman. I'd say Michael Keaton.
You were not wrong. I mean, Michael Keaton is Batman.
And we had the volume up, and you hear just the emotion coming through, like the horn. If I could go back and be in that recording studio when he is conducting all this music, I think I would have lost my stuff.
Well, and the thing, I remember a story that was told because one time I was at San Diego Comic-Con recently, and Michael Uzlan, who's the executive producer on that film, he's huge with a lot of the different comic book movies that have come out over the decades. And he was talking about how Danny Elfman at the time was a newer composer. He really didn't have that many films under his belt. And Tim was there with Danny and was explaining what he's going for and that sort of thing. And you had some high-level execs that were a bit critical or really not sure if Danny could really do the job. And so they planned something where like the big time execs comes down to like where they're recording the soundtrack. Because they want to know, like what's up.
Yeah, what are we getting our money's worth here?
Exactly. And so I believe, if I remember correctly, it was either Michael or Tim told Danny, play the marching theme of Batman. Just play that. And so that, of course, is like the main song you hear during like the intro credits, the and what was so funny is that song made such a huge impression on the bigwig execs that the execs themselves,
we're gonna be rich.
Well, they were in like kind of like this like sitting area of the auditorium. They got up and they started dancing arm in arm together like to the music because they just loved it. They thought it was absolutely fantastic. Great story.
Yeah, I don't know how they could do that, but I mean, sure, if that was what.
Well, it's like the whole, you put your arms in the lock and you're like, you're kind of going around in circles, just being silly. But they were so excited about how this song was perfect. It was exactly what the persona of Batman is.
I think one of my favorite scores, I guess, on the soundtrack is the scene where Batman rescues Vicky Vale. They go to the museum restaurant to eat, and she says, "Okay, put this mask on," and kills everybody in there with the gas.
That is number 7 on the Batman soundtrack.
And so Batman with his hooks here and grappling hooks there, and
where does he get
gadgets?
Those wonderful toys?
He does a lot of that's like the main thing that he does besides punch and kick is just shoot grapple hooks everywhere.
Smoke grenades.
Yeah, every once
Batarangs.
Yeah, 1 or 2.
Hey.
Anyhow, he does a lot of that in his movie. Anyway, so after that scene, she goes, "Get in the car." She goes, "Which one?" And so they're driving. Well, after the fight scene, anyway. I don't think that's not how it went, really. That might be how it went in your head.
No, I know precisely how it goes.
That's not how it sounded in the
That's
movie.
when she says, "Which one?" And she looks and you hear that, boom, like the huge brass part.
No, I'm talking like, okay, that was I'm just set up the scene here for you. But it was after like they ran through town and he just said like, "Shut up." And so the shields came off the car, and then the car comes up to where he is and goes, stop. And then the car stops, and they're heading towards the Batcave.
You are talking about number 10 on the soundtrack.
Ah, now we got it. Boom, boom, bum, boom, 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 bum, boom, 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 bum, boom, 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 bum.
Anyway,
Where are we going?
he just looks at her.
Light.
Ruined my night vision.
Man. So anyhow,
It's such a great movie.
so she was saying, like, this is like legit practical effects. I'm like, yeah, that you had to use what they had at the time. And yeah, so this is not going to be,
All miniatures.
the big budget Christopher Nolan Batman. This is like back in the day before all this stuff was big and all the banks were behind it. So they had to use what they had. And so, yeah, it's not as flashy, but it's still just as awesome.
And that Batmobile is a fully working Batmobile. Like, it's basically a Corvette.
Yeah, like a
of the
70s
horsepower and
Corvette,
everything.
yeah.
They put some other stuff on it.
No, did they?
No.
Or just Batman just driving a Corvette, bro?
No. But a bunch of little things like the lights on the back, the taillights are actually from a Ferrari.
Oh, you think, is that really? What about the fender wings? Where are those from?
I don't know.
What about the turbine engine? Russ? Where's that from?
Oh, I used to know that.
I don't know.
Well, I'm glad that you introduced Batman to her, and I hope that she enjoyed it. I hope
She did.
that she was blown away.
She actually did. You have to listen to it with the music loud. Oh, it's incredible.
Well, I mean, everything about it was amazing. I mean, when you think of the tremendous acting from Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson, and even all of the supporting cast as well, everybody was perfectly cast for their roles. It had that comic book opera with the cinematography. The suit itself was so forward thinking for its time. I mean, I've watched that movie countless. I don't even know how many times I've watched that movie, but every time I watch it, I'm still completely blown away by the scale of it.
you know what happened too is a lot of the lines we use, like in our just day-to-day banter. And so I'm like, that's why Russ says that to me. That's why I say that to him. He's like, oh. So it's kind of an educational learning experience.
Sure.
The other thing we did, Russ, it's Memorial Day recently, not today.
No. Today would not be Memorial Day.
No. No.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so we watched the entire Band of Brothers from Memorial Day to June 6th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Not the Pacific, just the Band of Brothers.
Still, both series are fabulous.
Yeah. So she hadn't watched the whole thing, and it had been quite a few years since I've seen the whole thing. I've seen like specific episodes, and but I hadn't watched it all in one sitting for quite some time. So I thought it was Memorial Day, pretty. What else are you going to watch on Memorial Day besides
Saving Private Ryan?
Well,
perhaps, but
Saving Private Ryan? You can only handle so much. I mean,
it's intense.
Oof,
it's all intense.
It's all intense, yeah. But at least this one is not so intense. I mean, it's definitely well acted, and they give you, they show you the lives of a big company, easy company. But it's not so much like in your face, like here's somebody that you're going to fall in love with, and now we're going to blow his legs off, okay?
Yeah.
Now here's somebody else. So anyhow.
Well, good.
Band of Brothers, awesome.
I'm glad. I'm happy for you, Steve. Anything else?
No, the rest ought to be just about it.
All right. Well, you definitely had some quality entertainment, I would say, that you were watching for sure. I definitely give a hearty 2 thumbs up to both of those.
Speaking of which, Tom Hardy was in it. Just for a little bit.
Really?
Indeed.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll have to rewatch it just to look around for him. Yeah, but he was very young, Tom Hardy.
Very young, very scrawny.
Yes.
Tom Hardy.
Very nice. So today being June 10th, Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrade was released. And I was able to download it because I had purchased a copy of it, the physical copy in this case, for the PS4.
Sure.
However, there was a bit of a learning process that I wanted to share with you as well as all of our listeners and viewers out there, because in the event that you guys decide that you are going to be getting this upgrade itself, I figured I'd give you a hand, because Sony really, they could have made the whole like save data transfer process better. If you think about it, Microsoft has done a really nice job with the smart delivery system that they've put together, right?
Yes.
So like if you need to play a game on an old Xbox, or if you have an Xbox Series X, the transition is really seamless. I mean, you basically just get the game, you load it up, and then you let it sync, and then you start playing. And there's really nothing you have to think about. Not so with the PS5, Steve. So in this instance, excuse me. When I had finished downloading the upgraded PS5 version, my saved game was gone. So I go into the menu, and where it says continue, how it says like new game, continue, load game, yada, yada, yada. Continue was grayed out. And if I clicked on load game, there were no games there. I'm thinking, oh no, did this upgrade just completely erase my save game? And see, what made things a little more complicated too was the fact that I started playing Final Fantasy VII Remake on my PS4 Pro, but I didn't finish it. When I got the PS5, I had transferred all my stuff over to the PS5, and it was there that I finished like the remaining like 7 hours or whatever that I had to go, right?
2 minutes.
Yeah, so
Attack done.
yeah.
Take that.
But in that instance, though, I realized, oh my goodness, like, does that mean I have to go back to my PS4 Pro and upload my save data once again? And if I had to do that, that would mean that I would have to replay through that whole chunk at the end. So I was going back, I was doing tons of research on this, and I'm really kind of surprised that Square Enix and Sony have both dropped the ball on this in terms of like making the instructions really easy to find and just out there like, hey, FYI, here are your steps. Uncle Russ is going to help you out in this instance. Minus the accidental tap there.
I'm awake now.
So looking at the PS5 menu screen, this is what you get when you are finished downloading Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrade. You'll notice it looks just like Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, what I discovered is that you now have two versions of the game on your system, like on your hard drive. You have the PS4 version of Final Fantasy VII Remake, and you have the PS5 version. So when the game finishes downloading the Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrade, that's what you see here. And what I discovered is that in order to get your save data moved, because now it's thinking there are two completely different types of games, you have to go down to where these three dots exist. And you click on that, and you'll notice it now has this one item that says PS4 full Final Fantasy VII Remake. That's basically telling you that, oh, hey, if you want to play the PS4 version of this game, you have to click this, because right now we're on the PS5 version. So you click this, and then you'll notice at the top there, it says Final Fantasy VII Remake PS4, and then you'll see the disc icon with like the USB icon as well, because that's where I have my PS4 Pro version saved, even though the USB version is in fact plugged into my PS5. So then you go into play a game like this, and you'll notice that these places actually exist. So the deal is you have to go down to where it says upload save data. This will only work if you're in the PS4 version. That's what makes part of this confusing too, is that if you go into the PS5 version, the upload save data still exists, but nothing happens. So you're just like, what on earth is going on? Well, you have to go into upload save data of your PS4 version, and you know it works because this screen comes up and they give you some instructions as to how to transfer a save from your PS4 to your PS5. And you'll notice like I have one already that I have transferred over. I say confirm. Okay. So in this instance, what I'm going to do is I'll just select this one instead to upload. So I select it. It'll say, oh, data has been previously uploaded to the slot already. Do you want to overwrite? And I say, why? Yes, I do. Here, let's do it. Uploading save data. Save data is blah, 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 blah. Confirm. Okay. So then you go back out to the menu here. You go back down to the three dots, and you'll notice now it's asking, oh, would you like to change from PS4 to PS5? Here's the PS5 full version of Final Fantasy VII Remake. You say, well, yes, I do. And you go in to play game again. And once we get to the main menu screen, it says additional content has been downloaded. Select system followed by DLC via the main menu to acquire. So you go in here and you'll have to download save data at this point. And you'll see it comes up. Here it is, level 38, chapter 17, deliverance from chaos, blah, blah, blah. Confirm. Which slot you want to choose? Oh, I'll choose this empty slot here. You want to save your data to the selected slot? Why, yes, I would. Data successfully saved. To play, please access data from the load game confirmed. So now all you have to do is go into load game, and there it is. Now you have your saved game from your PS4 Pro experience, or PS4, just your PS4 in general. And you're able to continue playing at that point in time. For me, I have this other save version that I put on there. And once again, you're like, oh, wow, look, here we are. We're back in this area and we're able to continue playing.
That's where I am actually in that game, Russ.
Really?
You just basically rescued Aerith.
Well,
right
actually,
then.
Yes.
And you got Red 13?
Yes. That is correct. That is correct, Steve.
That is actually precisely where I am.
Oh, good, Steve. I'm glad.
I'm about to complete something.
It's a miracle. But anyway, wanted to make everybody aware of that because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of gamers out there who are excited to check out the PS5 version. They don't want to start a new game. They want to continue with their saved game.
Right.
And they're probably going to have an oh crap moment like I did where I thought the saved game itself was lost.
Right. That's a bunch of steps, Russ. I was starting to fall asleep.
Well, Steve, if you had the new game, you definitely would not be falling asleep. You'd be looking intensely as each step was shown to you.
Probably going, what the frick is going on over here?
I'm also very happy to report to you, Steve, that I beat Resident Evil Village.
I knew that was coming.
Great game.
I know.
Very, very great game.
I know.
I still need to get through Resident Evil 2 Remake and Resident Evil 3 Remake. But after completing my official Resident Evil title, I'm very, very happy about that.
Still need to get through Resident Evil 7 too, right?
Resident Evil 7. Oh, yes. I was checking out one of my favorite streamers, Fighting Cowboy, and he had played through that game back when it was first released. That is a twisted game. Like I realized, it's kind of spoiler territory for me to watch, but I just wanted to get kind of a feel for how the game is. That game is a very different experience than Resident Evil Village. So
altogether,
I'll have to see how brave I'm feeling to get through that because there's a lot of messed up stuff with that. I think what is kind of disturbing to me with that game is it's not really about zombies and the supernatural so much as it's really it's almost like Texas Chainsaw Massacre style where you have this backwoods family that's essentially torturing you and torturing your wife or girlfriend or whatever it is at the time. So it's a different dynamic, but we'll see what happens. I also watched a movie called Macbeth. Have you heard of Macbeth?
Yes.
You have?
I've heard of Macbeth. I don't recall seeing it, but yes, I have heard. Yes, Ross.
So Macbeth is a Shakespeare play.
Right.
And apparently there was a movie that came out that starred Michael Fassbender as Macbeth. And the story itself revolves around some Scottish general. Macbeth was in the story. I think this is a completely fictional story. But Macbeth was this general for the Scottish army, and they were going through some kind of civil war with the King of Scotland and all this stuff going on. Anyway, in typical Shakespearean style, it's really heavy and all this awful, crazy stuff happens, everything else, tragedy, you name it, it's in there. But the main thing that I want to impress upon you, Steve, as well as all of our viewers,
yes, right,
is that the cinematography in that movie is one of the most beautiful looking movies I think I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah?
What's crazy is that I've heard most, if not all of the scenes in that movie were completely lit by natural light. They did not have any kind of studio lights whatsoever in there. And when you look at each one of the shots, the framing of it, cinematography, all of how they've arranged the every single composition of the various shots and whatnot, half the time I would actually found myself muting what was being said, because I'm one of those people where, like, when you listen to a Shakespearean script, it's like they're kind of speaking English, but they're kind of not. And I'm like, okay, I kind of get the gist of what is happening from a very high level standpoint, but like I'm struggling to keep up with like what are you
poetry and what you're trying to say. I can't handle it.
I'm a very simple man. I'm not exactly sure what you're saying, but I think if I had to guess,
Do you bequeath thy will?
it sounds like you're getting real cerebral in a psychological manner, and with that knife that you're holding, I have a feeling you're going to stab that dude. Anyway, really, really cool movie, just visually speaking. Like I said, it was a bit more of like a heavier plot and everything else, so I was not as much into that. It wasn't exactly my kind of style, but visually speaking, though, I was very happy, Steve.
Okay.
I definitely recommend it to you.
Nice.
We are burdened with glorious purpose. It's the topic of the day. Topic of the day is the Disney Plus Loki episode 1 review.
It's a bit loud.
If you haven't seen the, well, I was going to say film, basically it's like a film, but if you haven't seen the episode, we would suggest perhaps you pausing us and going to check out the show itself, because we are going into spoiler territory. And we definitely don't want to ruin anything for you. But if you don't care, then let us continue on. Steve, I'm very much looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the first episode of Loki. What say you?
Well, it's all about Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson there, Russ.
It really is.
Yeah. Yep. This is very curious to me. There wasn't a whole lot of action going on, but because there was two actors that actually do have a lot of chemistry together, and I've loved a lot of stuff that Owen Wilson has been in. And of course, Tom Hiddleston, one of our favorite villains.
You can't go wrong with Tom Hiddleston. In fact, I've missed him for a while now. He is fantastic on screen. Yeah. This character was just absolutely designed for him.
Right.
It's funny if I think of like Tony Stark, for instance, like Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man.
Right.
Like there is no one else that can replace Tony Stark.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah, no. But Tom Hiddleston is exactly the same way when it comes to Loki. I love it. Right. And like what you're saying, like when it comes to Owen Wilson, we've always been fans of Owen in several films over the decades.
Right.
So to see him join the MCU is a pretty special treat.
And have a mustache at that, Russ.
A very nice mustache, I might add.
And frosty hair.
Apparently he's been taking a closer look.
Oh boy. But no, it was good. I knew they had to have continued off where Avengers Endgame had ended when he got the Tesseract and was like, I'm out, peace. Mm-hmm. You know, I knew that was what was going to have to happen. Although I didn't expect him to drop out of like the sky into like the desert. And that first scene, I'm like, okay, you couldn't do on the ground. Okay, cool. But the door was open. I didn't know what to expect. I was just wanting to be entertained, and so far I am. I liked the hold on. My brain is trying to say something.
You sound like you're getting a little verklempt over there, Steve.
I liked the scene. Probably my favorite part of the little show was when they were talking about how he likes to hurt people or why he likes to hurt people.
Yeah.
And he's trying to get an answer out of Loki. Like, tell me something here. You ain't going nowhere. I'm your therapist. I mean, he was not his therapist, but that basically was.
He was like kind of
happening.
wearing the psychologist cap
Yeah.
or psychiatrist cap.
Right. So, and he's showing him what could have been or what did occur. And Loki had no clue that that was the case. Like, you know, him leading the army, the bad guys, the bad people who end up killing his mom. For example.
Dark elves, Steve.
Was there the Dark Elves?
Yes.
They were the Dark Elves. Okay. Or were they the Woodland Elves?
No. This is what happens when you don't pay attention.
Oh, man. Okay. Must have had something in my popcorn that day.
What are those bad guys from Thor Dark World?
No one likes Thor Dark World, Russ. That was like the non-favorite Thor. Anyhow. So he's showing him that, and then he's showing him how like the different lines like that could have transpired, timelines in a sense.
Almost the space-time continuum.
Right. And then he gets to the part where Avengers or where Thanos has him and kills him. Like he's watching his own death.
Right.
For crying out loud. I mean, that was heavy for me. I mean, I was heavy watching it. What they did not show though was Thor crying out after Loki got his neck crushed.
They did show him mourning over the dead body of Loki.
They did show that. Yeah, right.
And I'm with you. Like I was really expecting them to show the part where Thor says, "You'll die for that."
Right.
But I think they got the gist across. Like I don't think they wanted to compete with, because that was a pretty high emotional moment in Avengers Infinity War, and I think they were trying to focus more on how Loki was responding. But yeah, like let's back up a little bit. So the TVA, I love the TVA. I think it is a wonderful.
What was that?
I'm so excited. Even my phlegm wants to talk.
That's disgusting.
When it comes to having a new entity within the MCU, I think it fits perfectly. I loved all of the characters that exist within this world. I was really struck by the production design. Like when you look at all the different rooms they were in, how it was decidedly very 60s almost in terms of the color palette, the large knobs and switches and buttons.
Yeah.
And even the eccentric type of personalities that exist in that space. It's really interesting because I felt like they did a really nice job of conveying this sense that it's really a secure location. Like the people who live or work there, it's not like they had gone through like what everybody had gone through with like Infinity War and Endgame, where like Thanos snapped his fingers and half of all life ceased to exist. Like you can tell they were kind of in their own little bubble. And I thought that was really neat because you had someone like Loki who, I mean, understandably and arguably so, he's a threat. And he has different types of abilities and that sort of thing, and how it just didn't exist in this space. And what I thought was cool, so the TVA stands for Time Variance Authority. And one of the first questions that came to my mind, because they spent a fair amount of time with Loki watching like that little like funny 60s style cartoon, which by the way, I believe was voiced by Tara Strong, who is also the voice of Harley Quinn. So great job, because that did not sound at all like Tara based off the other characters I've heard her do. So I'm like, wow, that's impressive. She got the whole like Southern charm drawl. Yeah. But anyway, it was really cool to see that. And I was asking myself, okay, they're clearly starting to introduce like this notion of like a multiverse, right? Because they're providing a lot of exposition when it comes to like how this kind of like threaded timeline works, how it exists, how back in the day there was like this big threat toward what was going on. There are multiple threads, and it was like this multiverse kind of thing. it definitely makes me wonder if the next like infinity style war in the future is going to be like a multiverse war. That's what I'm wondering. I'm not going to necessarily predict that's what the next big battle is going to be, but I mean, I feel like they're setting us up because Loki it looks like he's able to go back in time. He can go forward in time. And not only that, but he can probably go into these multi-dimensional versions of reality. So I have a feeling that at the very least, they're going to tease the possibility of that happening. And if they do go full tilt in that direction, I'm going to say, you heard it here first, folks.
I think that's going to be difficult to maintain and continue, though, because once they start that route or routes, multiple, it's going to be hard to understand and keep track of, okay, here's a timeline of this character. Oh, but then, next year we're going to go cross multiverse, and then we're going to continue that story. And then the year after that, we're going to go to a different whole chain. And, I think it could be interesting to start if they go down that route, but I don't know in the long run if that's going to be the best decision.
I think that as long as they are responsible with not getting too crazy with the timelines, it could be a rush. Like, I think it would be super cool to be in a type of situation where you can suddenly introduce like multiple versions of a hero, for example, right? Like they exist. And we've seen this to a certain extent, like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was a fantastic example of like how there were like all these different variations of Spider-Man that exist in these parallel dimensions, right? And so I think this is kind of the direction that both the MCU and DCU are headed. One of the reasons I can think of is because they have an aging cast. So like Disney is not going to retire Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Hawkeye, Black Widow, like they're not going to do that. So they need a means to be able to introduce a different version, a younger version of these types of characters, as well as introduce brand new characters that we haven't seen before. And I think this is going to be their vehicle for that, which I got to say, like, I'm okay with that. I think that logically speaking, that makes sense. I can get behind an idea like that and say, sure, I think that works. Same thing with DCU. Like, they're having the Flash movie that's coming out soon, and we're really, really pumped for that because Michael Keaton is going to reprise his role as Batman. Like, I mean, that's like a bucket list item for me. Like, how on earth did they finally get that off the ground and working? I don't care. I'm just glad it's happening. But at the same time,
Glad it's not Batfleck.
well, and he may even be in there too. I'm not even sure like how many different versions they're going to have.
That's my suit.
But at the same time, you can tell that they too are starting to flirt with this idea because the Flash is the one character that can go back in time and forward in time, go into these different dimensions, into their version of the multiverse and DC. And so I think both studios understand how this could be a very rewarding Pandora's box. But to your point, I think that it's very prudent of them to keep a hand, like don't just fly off the handle and turn it into kind of like a participation trophy situation. Like you need to be methodical. You need to have a very strong purpose as to why we are going to certain dimensions or why certain things are happening that are supposedly out of these different characters' control, so on and so forth. One of the scenes that I thought was also really cool was, if you recall, Loki had kind of gotten away, like he was trying to figure a way to get out of there. And he finds the guy who took the Tesseract.
Right.
And so the first thing I thought was great was like how he's trying to threaten him. And he's like, I'll gut you like a fish. And he's like, what's a fish? He's like, how do you not know what a fish is?
It's like, I've been behind a desk my whole life. I'm like, yeah. I guess you have, huh?
But it lended credibility to this world because it's like, well, yeah, maybe they don't have a species known as fish here. And I thought that was fantastic. But furthermore, if you remember, he opened up that drawer where the Tesseract was, and there were all these Infinity Stones. And I initially had like a uh-oh moment when I saw it because, I mean, here's Loki. He sees all these Infinity Stones, everything else. But I loved how they decided to go with it where the guy even said, oh, yeah, several of the guys around here, they use those as like paperweights.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it instantly removed the sense of threat from the Infinity Stones in that moment being in that space. Because again, it's reinforcing this notion that like this place is way different than what we have all been used to. Like the rules that we have been conditioned by no longer apply in this space. And to see Loki have that revelation, he didn't even say anything. It was all acting. It was all in his face. But you could see how like the wind was just like it left his sails. Like he was like, these things are supposedly like the most powerful elements in the universe, and they have multiple copies of them and versions, and they're in like a little drawer that some person is like just
There's no use messages. Here.
Yeah, like they're clearly not valued the same way.
Right.
So I thought that was great. Another thing too, going back to what you were talking about, I love that sequence between Owen and Tom in terms of their performance, because you can tell like there was this back and forth of Loki attempting to figure out where he was, what's the deal, what does Agent Mobius want, and it was really interesting to like have kind of a timeline recap of what was going on, because if you remember, this Loki in the show was taken from the first Avengers movie. Right. This Loki was not around for the Infinity War version of Avengers. Right. So he has no idea that Thanos kills him.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was just saying.
And that's I'm saying I agree with you. I think it was really, really powerful to like have him have this epiphany, this moment of discovery, right? Where I love time travel stuff like this. This like Back to the Future. I'm a huge Back to the Future fan.
It's a slippery slope, and when it makes sense, it's great.
When you start to like see what they're doing, you can take like basically they rehashed a bunch of material we had already seen, but in a completely different light. And I'm on the edge of my seat going, "Oh, dude, that's right," because this is the Loki from the first Avengers. This is the Joss Whedon Loki. And now he's seeing several years in the future what happens when he actually does try to save his brother. Like it's no longer, because like when he got caught, he was not in good relations with Thor at all. Because if you think about it, even Thor Ragnarok had not happened yet. So like they didn't have that coming together to try and take out their evil sister. Thor hadn't lost his eye yet. He saw all this stuff go on, but the big moment was like what you were saying, like when Thanos killed him, and how I think that really caused him to be like, wow. Like I had just taken orders from Thanos in order to take on Earth. I just lost that battle from the Avengers, and now I see into the future about how this is the end of my existence. Woo. Sorry, a little excited there.
Correct.
Continue, please.
Yeah, no. So, and at that point, Mobius comes in. He's thinking that he's going to have to, wrestle him down to the ground and hurt him with those like disintegrating batons kind of thing. Which I think, I'm probably wrong. I was going to say, I think those batons were. They look familiar to the staff that was used in Thor Ragnarok. Remember, he's like, oh, you touch somebody with it, and they go, bleh, and they just kind of melt away.
Oh yeah.
Anyhow, but so Loki had that collar off, that mini time travel collar where they can push a button if he like runs off, and they'll bring him right back.
Sure, yeah.
And so he's going, okay, like I don't know what he's capable of without the collar. He can't use his powers there, or can he? But they don't know what's going on.
Well, if you recall, we find out that he tried to use the Tesseract several times and it just doesn't work. Like his powers do like straight up do not work.
Right. Or in the courtroom when he's like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, what was he doing? But what was funny though was when that guard came in and he was able to somehow take that collar off without hurting himself. I want to know why he couldn't do that before. And then he hooks it on her. It reminded me of like sometimes when, in the Sega Genesis games when you can go to the options and you can go into the sounds and then there's a list of all the sounds and the voices, and then you do like this remix kind of style, like, hey, where you going? Stop. So Loki's going forward, backward.
Man.
And she's like, stop.
Yeah. I really like that effect too. The special effects on that were pretty satisfying. And I was honestly a little concerned. I really liked the female guard. I thought she was cool. But when he got a hold of it, he was intentionally torturing her, going back and forth like that. There was a certain percentage of it that I thought was funny, but at the same time, I was like, wow, can you imagine being trapped in that kind of situation? Like, I think that would really scar you psychologically, if not physically. But one of the other aha moments of the episode is that we come to find out that there is some sort of threat, some sort of villain antagonist that is going around causing mayhem. And we come to find out, apparently it is Loki.
Right.
So that is pretty interesting too, because it begs the question, okay, well, how does this Loki exist? Is this Loki a byproduct of what this Loki that Owen has talked to as he goes on this mission? Like, does he suddenly have some sort of event that causes a split, so there are now two of them, or maybe it's just simply him in the future? So I think it's off to a great start. Honestly, I'm really digging the visual aesthetic, the art direction. I'm digging the new characters that are being introduced. Just the fact that Tom Hiddleston gets to have a standalone show where we get to see a lot of him. The man has range. Like, he has like a wonderful acting range that goes beyond just, oh, I'm Loki, I'm here to cause mischief.
I'm Loki, give him my horn hat.
Yeah.
Now, I like the psychology in it too, because Loki, I guess, speaks more eloquently than a lot of the other Avengers do, or some of the villains do. And so to hear him speak is almost like hearing Vision speak, in a sense. But, Vision's the good guy, Loki's the bad guy.
Yeah.
But I think what might come to term is, I just say that, but Loki coming to terms actually with his other physical self. And whatever is going to happen is whatever's going to happen. I don't know. But we might see a whole new villain, or we might see him turn into a good guy. We don't know. But he's obviously looking to help in a certain way, to a certain extent. He doesn't know what's going to happen, but he ain't going anywhere. He's got trapped here. So it's like, okay, help us, or, take a time out for a long time.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I'm really excited to see where the story goes. I think that this is probably going to be a really big success for Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And by the way, it drops new episodes every Wednesday, which is interesting because normally I think they usually drop on like Fridays, either Thursdays or Fridays.
Or Friday, yeah.
So it's actually, I think it's cool that we have something to look forward to midweek.
In the middle of the week. Yeah. They're going to drop right in the middle of our Twitch, Russ.
Well, good thing it's video on demand. That wraps up this episode of Joygasm. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you enjoyed this episode, we invite you to check out patreon.com/Joygasm, where you can enjoy early access and exclusive perks. Not to mention, it helps us continue doing what we love to do. Also, you can follow us on social media and YouTube. Just do a search for Joygasm TV. Also, make sure you poke that subscribe button and tickle that notification bell to make sure you do not miss any future episodes of Joygasm that land on YouTube itself. Last but not least, do a search for Joygasm TV on Twitch to see us stream our gaming adventures live every Wednesday night, as Steve said, 9:30 p.m. Central Time.
And leave us a comment. Let us know. Did you like Loki? Did you not like Loki? Do you agree with what we're talking about? Do you disagree with what we're talking about? We'd like to hear your thoughts.
Absolutely. We will see you next week when E3 is here.